Welcome back to Lobby Concessionals, the movie podcast where nobody's right and everybody's wrong. We're here doing another episode of Late to the Show, where we take a look at a movie that one of the two of us, or third of us if we had a guest, hasn't seen a film that they probably should have for whatever reason. And we take a look and we discuss it. We figure out if it was worth a rewatch or worth the first watch. And discuss some of the merits. This week, we decided to take a look at Akira. I have never seen it. Historically, I have some issues with anime, where I find I have a hard time getting into it. I've always kind of wondered if that's like a lost in translation thing, or anyway. Watched Akira for the first time. Brendan, do you want to give us what your thoughts are on it? Because you've watched it multiple times.
It's one of my favorite movies ever.
Oh, okay.
It's that's tough. Like when you watch as many movies as we do, one of my favorite movies ever could be in like the top 200.
Yeah. It's a big list.
Akira, I have a lot of memories of Akira. I got to Akira really young, which is probably not the best way to have done it.
Sure.
Right? And, knowing what I know now. And I remember doing it from I got it from a video store, not a Blockbuster, but like a hardcore video store with like a ton of weird movies and things of that nature, and had the beaded curtains and the weird section obviously in the back.
Sorry, yeah. Like by hardcore, do you just mean it was just porn and they happen to have one copy of Akira?
Well, to be fair, it had the largest porn selection in the city.
Oh,
in the city, possibly the province at the time, but it had a great independent movie section and B movie section, and special interests and a big anime section, which was crazy for the mid '90s, early mid '90s. So I got Akira there because it was the thing that everybody had talked about, and so I got it really young.
So I believe it came out in '88. So at this point, still, like it is actually probably unique that it would be at this store, because it would have been out for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I got to it in '94.
Okay.
If I want to remember that properly, and I remember watching that and just being blown away. You grow up on Saturday morning cartoons and animated movies, but nothing looked like that. Nothing moved like that. Again, we'll talk about it a little bit, but the tail lights, nothing.
Oh yeah,
nothing looks like that.
Well, I think the look is part of the reason that I picked this movie, especially this early on. You know, like lots of movies I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But
you wanted to tackle a whole genre.
I want to tackle the genre, and I think based on my take from it, I think there's going to be a whole other. This is a whole other discussion for another day.
Sure.
Probably next week, where we'll dig into a little bit more storytelling in anime and and East versus West sort of stuff. You know. Either way, though, I think so much of it came down to that bike scene.
The slide.
The
Akira slide.
It's just like, oh yeah, no, I've seen this 100 million times.
Yeah.
I need to watch this movie. I've also heard it referenced, like the film referenced multiple times. So
yeah.
Most recently, it was referenced in Rick and Morty. Actually, Morty ends up turning into a giant monster, flesh monster thing near the end, and Jerry asks if Rick turned his son into an Akira, and so. I thought that was funny because I had seen enough of it. Like I knew the gist of the film, and I knew, the story beats basically. So anyway, I wanted to finally watch it and get this cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
And so quick thoughts or basic thoughts. First of all, the visuals are amazing. It's incredibly well done from that point of view, especially like for a hand-drawn animation side of things. I did notice multiple times that there is an exceptional level of detail on stuff that really doesn't need that level of detail.
Every brick in every building.
There's like a shot very, very early on, in probably the first 15 minutes, that is from the inside of a cab. And the cab is packed full of stuff. But like the point and the subject of the shot is someone outside. and you're looking through the back window. So it's on the front dash. You're looking through the back window, and you see this guy running with one of the kids. But the cab is full.
Yeah, it's like a fully immersive cab.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, like we get this shot for 3 seconds maybe. Someone put a lot of time and effort into this for, not a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
Like, so that is very clear. I liked the world building. I also like the fact that it's in the past now. Like, it literally takes place in 2019. So I liked it from that point of view. I did not like the movie, though. At the end of the day,
I knew it was gonna be a thing.
Yeah. The art is great. I love the clear influences to cyberpunk and the cyberpunk genre. But yeah, at the end of the day, I was bored, and I didn't find them characters interesting. I didn't find the story that compelling. I found it to be odd and confusing and kind of meandering.
Just so I have like a nice basis. Like, not that it matters one way or the other. Did you watch it dubbed or subbed?
Both. Yeah. So I always do subtitles anyway.
Okay.
And I have a hard time with, and this is going to make me sound ridiculous, but like I have a hard time with movies in other languages. Because as much as I always watch with subtitles, I am ADD, and there's going to be times where I'm looking away for whatever reason.
And to be fair, Akira is one of the ones, but the dub's actually pretty good.
It is. I find a lot of Studio Ghibli movies do fairly good dubs as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did do both, which is a little weird because I find there's a number of times where they don't exactly line up, and usually it's fine where it's like clear that the subtitle is summarized.
Yeah.
So it's, you don't have a block of text on the screen or it doesn't get confusing. But there's a few times that were just weird. Like at one point, Tetsuo goes, "Fuck," and then, and the subtitle is "shit," and I'm like, why? Why did you guys make the change here? Like, that's just weird. So there was a couple of those that kind of pulled me out of it a bit. But anyway, sorry, continue.
No, it's so okay. So obviously, I don't know if I can fault you at all for being bored with it. The story being a little bit strange. It's a little wackadoodle.
Yeah.
All right. But do you kind of like at least are now able to like sit back and be like, I get it. Like, I can see why it's referenced. I can see why it's a cultural touchstone as it is.
Absolutely. I do see that for sure.
Yeah.
And I recognize its influence. I think that it can be hard going back and looking at some of these foundational films that have in some ways defined a particular genre. I find the same with Blade Runner, where it's hard for me to go back and watch that film and truly judge it appropriately, because I find Blade Runner, the original, boring. And I think it's a slow film. And
that's a rough take.
But it's foundational. And so there's certain things that would have wowed and amazed me if I hadn't already seen it done 300 times since.
Yeah.
But it was all done 300 times since because of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And in this case, because of Akira.
Yeah.
So it can be tough to go back because, frankly, movies improve on it. I think using Blade Runner, I think Blade Runner 2049 is a significantly better film. But it doesn't exist without Blade Runner.
Yeah.
For the obvious reason.
Get it.
but also for the other reasons of the cyberpunk genre has evolved and grown because of that initial film.
Yeah.
So, anyway, like I think foundational films are important. I see why it has a cultural significance. It's not something I would shy away from recommending to someone. But at the same time, I would be selective.
What's the caveat? Like, if somebody were like, "Hey, like, I want to watch Akira," why? If they are asking you,
why what?
Why should I watch Akira?
So I would tell them some of the same things we've been talking about. Yeah. The visuals are amazing. It is very clearly culturally relevant. Like there is important pieces there that are going to be referenced for forever.
Sure.
I would say it's something that you don't have to totally pay attention to because the story's not really going to make a lot of sense at the end of the day anyway.
Is that a deterrent? Like for a random person to walk up to you and be like, "Hey, I'm interested," and do you warn them with that?
I would. Personally, I think one of my bigger things is I love stories. So that's the reason I love movies.
Yeah.
Is I think that movies are an incredible medium for storytelling. And this story isn't there for me.
You're telling me you're not enthralled by a teddy bear climbing up the side of a bed? Just
like, no. And why is the teddy bear so small? Like we saw the teddy bear before and it's a normal size, and then suddenly it's very small, and then it's very large and noticeably made out of other bears. Like there's a lot of stuff going on and so I'm like, oh, did Tetsuo just become large? Oh no, the teddy bear is just smaller. Like they say the same size.
The bed is the same size. What did you think of the music?
I didn't really notice it, actually, to be completely honest with you.
Really?
It didn't really stand out to me.
It's one of my favorite scores.
Really?
In any movie. I like when people tell me anything about Akira, the drums go off in my head like immediately.
Huh. Yeah, I really don't. And now I feel weird that I literally can't remember anything.
I guess you couldn't hear them over the subtitles.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, no, I don't. I probably, if you ask my wife, who I watched it with, she would be like, "Oh yeah, the music was incredible."
Did she enjoy it?
She did. She was as confused as I was. There's portions of it. She's like, "Oh, okay, that's strange." She likes a lot of movies though, so I think it's a little bit different. That if I asked her if she'd enjoyed it, it would be far easier for her to say yes.
Her sliding scale is not measurable.
Yeah, it's tough. So anyway, I think that really at the end of the day, we don't get to know those main characters at all. Like, I don't know their interests or motivations or who they are as people. I don't care about them in a lot of ways. Why do I care about Tetsuo? Like, I spent a lot of time just going, kill him. Why don't they just shoot him in the face? Like,
tried.
They did a couple times. Yeah. I did find the climax was strange too, because we had in terms of internal logic and internal rules, there seemed to be a set of rules set out for what powers Tetsuo seemed to have, and then suddenly he turns into a giant meat monster. And I'm like, where was this?
And so I don't know how much of this plays a part in it, but the manga was coming out at the same time this movie was coming out.
Okay.
And it wasn't done yet.
Okay.
So there's a lot more that happens in the comic going forward until the end. Like, when this movie is released, we're only about halfway done.
So, but is the ending still the same? Like, the conclusion is the same?
For the most part.
So it's a little bit like a Game of Thrones problem, where they very clearly...
Well, in Game of Thrones, there's no ending.
But no, there is an ending. And it's the ending
I don't know what you're talking about.
In the book. But
I have no idea what you're talking about.
They very clearly just skip a bunch of character development and skip a bunch of story points and then go, yeah, I guess we're finished now. Haha, we don't want to be doing the show anymore.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
Yeah.
There is, I remember reading about some of the political intrigue of the film, and I found they skipped a lot of that as well. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's in the background or implied, but I'm like, man, this could be way more interesting. And there's whole chunks of it that I'm like, you could cut this. What kind of film is this? I guess is what I'm
right.
I come down to.
Right.
This is a struggle for power. This is people jockeying for control. Why aren't we getting more of that?
Yeah.
If this is about the biker gang, that's fine. But we don't focus enough on anything for me to really get invested. And I think that's really what it comes down to.
No, and that's fair. And that's a bigger issue in terms of the storytelling, which I think deserves a conversation.
Yeah.
So we should have that. But I'm actually pretty happy that you actually watched it.
I am too, and it's definitely not something I regretted doing. It wasn't a waste of my time by any means, but it was something that, after doing a little bit of reading and maybe figuring out some of the intent, I was like, oh, that's an interesting perspective. And again, from a foundational film point of view, I think it's good. You know, it's hard to go back and watch them.
Yeah. How dare you not understand 1988 Japanese social issues?
Yeah. Well, I'm a monster. So I basically, I'm something of a Akira myself. Yeah.
Cool. No, like I said, I'm glad you did it. I like these.
Yeah, me
like
too.
These, so.
Me too. We'll check in again later in the week, probably talking about some Japanese Eastern versus Western storytelling.
But let us know if you like Akira.
Yeah.
Or if you hate it.
Tell
me
me
if you have
how
the same
wrong
issues.
I am.
Tell me how wrong he is. Or how wrong I am for liking it. I don't know.
Bro, well, you know.
I do. This one's pretty clear cut, which I enjoy. I enjoy. I've never usually on the side of it.